Instagram! Welcome to the online book launch of Japan Unexpected. I'm just going to set up the Facebook feed as well. I'm just going to click go live for them. Unusually for an Australian, I have started slightly early. This is unusual for Australians. We are normally late for everything, but I think... Is the Facebook one working?
Not quite yet.
Facebook itself is being like perfectly on time. Yes, I think it is working now. Welcome everybody to the online book launch of Japan Unexpected. My name is Carrie Riseley. I'm the author. This is my friend Sarah Jane. She used to cheat off me in Japanese class in high school. In her defense, she hadn't been learning it for nearly as long as I had, so it was like way more difficult. It is quite a difficult language, actually. So Japan Unexpected is, oh gosh, I just remembered for Facebook. I'm so sorry, Facebook, I wasn't using the microphone. I did discover in my test yesterday that the computer microphone isn't good. This is because my computer is a dinosaur. But Instagrammers, you're all good because you're being broadcast from my phone, so that microphone should be working okay. So Japan Unexpected. I have to introduce Sarah Jane then again in that case, in case the Facebookers didn't hear it. This is Sarah Jane, everybody. And she's my helper person who's like checking the feed in case any of you comment while we're going along. You can ask questions or whatever you like. So most of this book is a journal that I wrote when I was living in Japan and I was working as an English teacher in a primary school. Some of it is also from an earlier journal that I did when I was only 18, when I first went to Japan to study and lived with a host family over there. And some of it is, I've just sort of added in some explanations of different cultural things, which has been really fun to explore. And I've learned more stuff as well because I also got a Japanese friend and a friend who's American but has lived in Japan for 13 years to be my cultural editors, Masako and Rachel. And they so actually taught me some new things as we were going along as well, which has been really interesting. I'm going to start by reading a reading from the book about an omikoshi. Now, an omikoshi is a portable shrine that gets taken around the neighbourhood to take the god around the neighbourhood, and it literally brings the god to the people, to the local people, so then they can pray or give offerings or whatever as it's going around the neighbourhood. And this was an exciting...
Just to interrupt, I think
first interaction.
Mic trouble.
Is there a trouble with the microphone on Facebook?
Yeah. Jessie is just letting us know that struggling here.
Are they still, is it still going?
So that was 1 minute ago.
1 minute ago. No change, says Jessie. Uh-oh, that's a problem. Sorry, Facebook team. I'm not quite sure how to fix that actually. I'm going to quickly suspend and restart Facebook and see if that helps. So I'll be back in a sec, Facebook. Sorry, Instagrammers, for the delay. Meantime, I can introduce you to the lovely artwork painted by my aunt, which is just above our heads here, which has to be included on an Instagram feed, because an Instagram feed, I learned yesterday, has to be done in portrait mode. And I learned that yesterday when I did the test video and it ended up putting me sideways, which was kind of funny. I'm just going to set this Facebook one to go again. Sorry for the delay, everyone. It won't let me set it up without writing some text in there. Okay, we're getting Facebook going again, and we're going to cross our fingers that the microphone will work again. So you'll have to go back to the page because it'll probably start again with a new video, I think. If you go back to my page, I'm now regretting the fact that I changed it actually. Oh, try that. Sorry for the delay, everyone. So, in order to not beat about the bush for too much longer, I will talk about some other things. I won't do the reading just yet because we need to let the Facebook people get back online. But I'll talk about these things here. So, this red thing is called a torii, which is a shrine gate. You can also see one, of course, on the cover of the book. That's a full-size one. And this one is, on the book, is known as a floating torii because it's in the middle of a lake. It doesn't mean that it's literally floating, but it just looks like it. That's my mini one. Here, and then next to it, which I'll take one of these off here, we have, this is called a jika tabi. A tabi is a Japanese sock which has the big toe separated from the rest of the toes, and the jika one is the one with a sole on the bottom of it, which is actually worn by the people who are carrying an omikoshi, which is what we're going to do when I do the reading. This one you can probably see very, very, very flimsy. Apparently they were originally, you were able to wear them if you were like a worker on scaffolding or something, so your foot was meant to be able to bend, but now they're just used for some traditional things. I did get to wear one of these, which is why this one looks a bit grubby, when I later got to participate in an omikoshi parade, but I had very, very uncomfortable feet. But I think if you do omikoshi regularly, you can get a better one. You can get like a thicker sole. Volume is good, says Sophie. Oh, hi, Sophie. Nice to see you or read you. Hi, welcome. That's good to know. Okay, well, I'll do the reading now to know that the volume is good. That's brilliant. Thank you, Facebook and Instagram, for putting up with the delay there. So the reading is about the first time I encountered an omikoshi in my city that I was living in, Iwaki, in Fukushima Prefecture. When we got there, we heard drums and music coming from the other side of the train tracks. We crossed over and found a colourful group in bright blue and red festival jackets, mostly children, waiting by the road with 3 omikoshis. 2 were very small and light omikoshis to be carried by children, and one was a much bigger and heavier one, black in colour, with tiny red tories, shrine gates, on 4 sides and a gold-trimmed roof topped with a beautiful golden phoenix. 2 friendly ladies started talking to us, telling us about the omikoshi and inviting us to join the group. They pointed out 3 men in exquisite costumes. One wore bright red with red platformed traditional wooden shoes, geta, and a fantastic devil's mask with googly eyes and a long nose. Another's dress was a soft green and he wore a tall black hat. The ladies told us that he was the priest, and at that moment he was blessing the shrine. He was waving a small branch around and occasionally bowing to the shrine with the other exquisitely dressed men. The ladies invited us to pray at the shrine. The priest showed us how to take one of the green branches and place it on the altar, then clap twice and bow. The children set off first with their cute little omikoshis, a drum suspended from a horizontal bamboo pole, and a group of girls playing bamboo flutes. Then a group of men in blue festival jackets, small white shorts, and white boots / Japanese split-toe socks with soles on the bottom. That's these. The Japanese word is jikatabi. They picked up the bigger omikoshi and carried it into the middle of the small intersection. They proceeded to violently shake it up and down and side to side. I asked the ladies why they were doing this, and they said it was to prove it wasn't too heavy. Then the men hoisted the omikoshi onto their shoulders and set off down the road after the others, the holy people following them. We said goodbye to the ladies, who were going off to lunch, and promptly made friends with a new group of ladies in black and white festival jackets, who were trailing the procession, carrying trays full of sake-bearing shot glasses. They were giving sake to anyone the procession happened to cross, including us. And so the procession processed. Kids in front, drums and flutes playing, then the men carrying the omikoshi and chanting, then the holy people, then us and the sake ladies, with whom we were chatting, except when they momentarily dashed off to give some sake to an old lady in her front garden, who would happily down it in one go and then give the glass back. Those who refused the sake, they did exist, were given sheets of calligraphy, which had something to do with the god and the omikoshi. They would put them in their home shrine. Occasionally, someone would rush out of their house with a traditional money envelope or other compact offering for the omikoshi god, which they would place on one of the omikoshi's side altars and bow quickly before the omikoshi moved on. It was really special to walk in this amazing parade through streets that were so Japanese. Chunky black roof tiles, squarish grey houses, a market garden every 5 houses, and a rice paddy every 2 blocks. So that's the end of my first reading. I think it's a good one to use because it's an example of why I called the book Japan Unexpected. Because we all have things that we do expect about Japan, and we would expect interesting traditional culture, certainly. And I knew quite a bit, possibly more than most, because I had been studying Japanese since I was a kid in primary school myself. But I hadn't known about omikoshis, and it's just such a fascinating tradition. And there are so many other things, like, for example, there's words that you have to say when you arrive home, and a different word that you have to say when you leave home, and when you leave work, and all this sort of thing, which you wouldn't even find out about if you didn't live there. There's the things that we do know about, like kimonos, and maybe a lot of people would know about the spring sakura blossoms, the cherry blossoms. But then there's all these unexpected things too, that just sort of weave into it really nicely and make the experience so much more deep, especially when you get to live in a place, because that's the best way to experience it. So I'm hoping to enable you to experience it from your own armchair at home by reading a book about it. Now we have, does anybody have any questions? Do you have any questions to start with?
Put me on the spot.
Put you on the spot. All right. I will answer. Actually, my friend Jessie sent a question earlier, which I will answer, which is a good one to start off with, I think. I'll just bring it up. I had it open. Oh. Sorry, Jessie, because I'm now signed in as Carrie's Travel Books and not Carrie Riseley, I can no longer access your words. I thought I'd left a window open, but obviously I hadn't. But that's okay. I remember approximately what Jessie said was that she wanted to know what honorific speech is, which is actually something that I mentioned in the blurb on the book. So that's why she's asking me this. And it is quite interesting. Now, the Japanese people are so polite and so respectful of others, and they have every verb has several different forms that will be employed. They'll be conjugated in a different way according to the politeness of the situation. So the two most common ones are casual form and polite form. Casual form you can only use with people you know really well, so close friends and family. You can also use it if you are the boss. You can use it to speak to your juniors. And I think if you're like an elderly person, you can speak to most people in casual form because everyone respects the elderly and they're sort of on top. Polite form you use with everybody else, people that you don't know as well, with colleagues, strangers on the street. And that's usually, if you're going to learn Japanese, polite form is where you'll start. That's what most people will learn because it's safe and you end up not offending people in most situations. I actually did make a cultural faux pas when I first lived in Japan in Kanazawa when I was 18, and I was living with host parents who were older people, and they would often have friends come and visit, and they were all older people, and it was obvious that I had to speak politely to them, and that was fair enough, and I would be polite to older people in English as well. But one time, one of them brought her daughter over, and I misinterpreted, and I thought, oh, young person, maybe I can use casual form with her. Even though actually I was 18 and she was probably more like 28, which is a bit of a seniority difference anyway, but I didn't see this initially. I was like, oh, younger person. And I said something to her in casual form, and the look on her face. And fortunately, because I could conjugate verbs, I was able to quickly backpedal, and I quickly said the same thing in polite form, and then she forgave me. But yes, no, it's anybody that you don't know well that you would use polite form with. Now, this doesn't answer Jessie's question. Jessie's question was, what is honorific form? Which is a whole level higher, and which you use if you're, for example, if you're speaking to a really high boss or customers. It's often used in customer service. And it's a whole other verb form that has, usually the verbs are longer as well. It's more complicated to say. Then there's also the humble form, which you would use if you were talking about yourself to a higher up person or a customer. So, for example, the honorific verb for to go is irashaimasu. So if you were asking a customer, will you go, you would say irashaimasu ka. And then if they asked you back, yes, will you go, are you going? Then you would say mairimasu, which is a completely different word, obviously, but it means the same thing, but it means I will go, but in humble form. So that's in those more extreme situations of politeness. Now, Jessie also asked me whether other languages have honorific form. Yes, I believe they do. I believe Korean does. I couldn't say off the top of my head which other languages do. But Korean certainly has casual and polite, and I think it has honorific as well. And there's probably others. Feel free to comment if you know of any, because it's interesting. I'm kind of glad that we don't have to in Australia, though. Although in Australia, we don't even say sir and madam to people. I noticed when I went to America, for example, that I got called ma'am or madam way more times. I actually work in customer service here, and I would only call someone sir or ma'am if they were being really horrible, and I was like getting a bit uppity and trying to defend myself, and I'd be like, I'm just doing my job, sir. That's the only context in which we are polite like that in Australia. So, anybody else sent any questions, or have you thought of one?
Well, I'm going to read out these other questions for you to answer, so
Okay.
that the people on the video also hear the questions.
Yes.
So Kathy, I'll just
Kathy.
read her
Hi,
comment
Kathy.
because it's just a nice comment. It says, "Congrats, Carrie," and I think that we all agree with that. Congratulations! Publishing
Thank
2
you.
books is a big deal. She said, "I'm looking forward to reading it. My question is cheeky like me. Do you miss Kathy hugs?"
I do miss Kathy hugs. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy is actually mentioned in the book. She is one of the people who worked in Iwaki as well as me. And she's quite tall. And I visited one time afterwards, and I met up with Rachel and Evan and Don, I think, some other friends who are mentioned in the book. And Kathy couldn't come. And Kathy sent me a hug with Rachel. Kathy is quite tall, Rachel is quite short. So what Rachel did was she stood on a chair and hugged me in order to give me a Kathy hug.
So this is from Jessie, and it's a bit of a follow-on. So the other part of the question was, is Japanese the only language with honorific speech, which I believe you already answered. But do you write it with specific characters, for example, katakana or kanji, or can it change characters depending on what else you might be writing?
Thank you, Jessie. That is a good question too. And the answer is no. Regarding honorific speech and the polite and casual form and all the other forms, the kind of characters you use to write them makes no difference. They do use different characters, which I'll explain in a moment, but they don't have a difference depending on the form of speech that you're using. But it is an interesting question you've asked, because the other interesting thing about Japanese is it's got 3 different writing systems, which is why I was never really fully literate in it, because I found it quite hard. So they have hiragana is the original Japanese one, and then they have katakana, which is also Japanese and which has exactly the same sounds as hiragana. And there are more characters. I mean, in English we have 28 letters. 26 letters. Sorry, I do know how many is 26 in English. In the hiragana and katakana, they're both more than 50, but they each have the same sounds. But the hiragana is used for original Japanese words, and the katakana usually is used for words that have been introduced from another language, which they have several of. For example, basketball and internet and computer. And then you've got kanji. Now, the other thing about Japanese is they don't put spaces between words. So kanji is used to show meaning and to clearly distinguish between which word is which. Primarily to show meaning, but for those of us who grew up speaking a language that does have spaces between words, it's handy to show where words begin and end as well. But the kanji characters were all originally Chinese characters, which were brought from China to Japan hundreds of years ago, back when Japan was absorbing some Chinese influence. Nowadays, it is almost nothing like China, but back several centuries ago, they got, tea and Buddhism and a few other things and kanji characters. And there are thousands of them in use in Japanese, which there would be in Chinese as well, although actually the Chinese have changed a little bit the way that they write them these days. But yes, I always struggled with kanji and was never very good at reading Japanese for that reason. Although, conversely, or in addition, it was handy when I went to China because I could sort of understand some street signs and things. So it has its advantages and disadvantages. Do we have any more questions?
Not in the chat, no.
That's okay. Do you have any more questions?
I don't know if it's a good question, but I have a
I'm sure it is.
So you mentioned that your book is titled Unexpected Japan. What is the thing about Japan that surprised you the most going over there?
That surprised me the most? Ooh, that's an interesting one. Like, there were a few that surprised me the most. Oh, wow, you put me on the spot. The things like the words you have to say when you arrive at work and leave work and all that sort of thing, we learned on the way. We learned before we got there, but I was surprised because I hadn't learned them before, because the previous time I was in Japan, in Kanazawa, I was only studying, and I was surprised by how little I had learned actually that time. I learned a lot more when I was working. Another thing, I don't know if it's the thing that surprised me most, but it's a fun thing, is omiyage. Some people may have heard of this. It often gets translated as souvenir. In fact, I remember in Japanese class in school that was on our vocab list somewhere.
I don't remember
that
anything.
omiyage as souvenir. But it's not really. So there is this strong tradition, well, it's a cultural expectation. You basically have to do it. Actually, this is one thing that probably surprised me a lot, was how relatively regimented a lot of these cultural things are, how strong the cultural expectation is. But omiyage is usually sweets, or sometimes savoury snacks, which are a specialty of the place that you have visited on your trip. And they will come in boxes with little individual servings. They'll be individually packaged. And obviously you also take it to, your family or whatever. But the expectation in a Japanese workplace is that you will give one of these to every single one of your colleagues when you return from your trip. And this could be even just like a little weekend trip. And so you have to go around and you put one little omiyage on the desk of all of your colleagues. And at first I thought, oh no, that's so annoying. I'm going to have to do that every time I go for a trip. Because obviously I went on a lot of trips because I really wanted to explore Japan when I was living there. But the thing is that you get to benefit from it, because every time one of your colleagues goes somewhere, you get a nice little sweetie, a nice little present. And especially if it's been like the school holidays or something. That said, Japanese teachers are actually expected to work during the school holidays unless they've taken annual leave. That's another strict cultural thing. But you end up with these nice little piles of treats on your desk every time your colleagues have been away. So that's a nice one. I've just thought I can answer your question now. The thing that surprised me most was probably when all the children had to pick grass on the first day of school, which I actually have a chapter in the book. Okay. Chapter 20, grass picking time. And there is a picture of the children squatting over another thing that surprised me is that Japanese schools will always have this big expanse of brown gravel or kind of cream-coloured gravel, and they won't have a lawn or they won't have an oval or anything like that. And that was one of the interesting things that I actually learned that's not in the book, because I learned it during the editing process from one of my cultural editors, Masako, that there's actually kind of a fear of pathogens in the dirt and the grass, and she said that was why. But anyway, they'll have this patch of bare gravel. And on the first day of school, all the kids had to go out and pick the grass that had grown through the gravel. And we went and helped them. But, we weren't doing a very good job. I mean, it's very hard to get them up by the roots. Like, we didn't have any tools to help. And we didn't even finish it. And then I was told that didn't really matter, and that the entire thing had just been an activity, just something for the kids to do, just something to keep them occupied. Because, of course, kids aren't capable of finding things to occupy them otherwise, in other ways.
Some more questions.
More questions?
Yeah. All right. So we have a question from Keely. So,
hi, Keely!
Sorry if I pronounced anyone's name wrong.
Yes, she's Keely.
So when you started your travels and began to write your diaries, was it always your intention to turn them into books?
That is a fantastic question, Keely, and thank you for segueing me into, I have sitting next to me on the couch my enormous box of travel journals. It's, wow. It's quite a lot of them. I've got the Japan one sitting on the top here, which have all gone into Japan unexpected, although actually I was going through these with Sarah Jane earlier, and I could only find 6 volumes, but the last one here is labelled volume 9, so there must be 3 more buried in this box. And then there's also various others from various other trips I've done. And now I do them digitally. I do them on Word document, whatever it is, on my phone. So I've got more since going digital as well. But the answer to your question, Keely, is no. I wrote them for myself. The first time I went to Japan, I was given by a dear family member, my mum's cousin Sandra and her husband Ken. They gave me this book here, which was empty at the time, an empty notebook. And I took that to Kanazawa when I was 18. And it only took me, I've got everything dated inside it. It only took me 3 weeks to fill it. And then I bought more and just kept going with it. And that was the first international trip I did as an adult. And I just have done it for every trip since. And I just do it because I enjoy it. I want to remember. I really enjoy all the things that I'm seeing and experiencing. And I want to remember. And I wrote them for myself, and I really enjoy reading them back, which is very helpful when you're then turning it into a book, because to make a book, you really got to enjoy your own writing, because you've got to read the entire thing from start to finish, like at least 8 times, maybe even more, because you've got to check for typos and everything, and you've got to refine everything and cut the fat, trim the fat from it as well. So yeah, I was writing them for years, but since I was 18, and then I didn't show many to people, but occasionally I would, and they'd say, oh, that's good, like that they liked my writing style. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe I could put them into a book one day. But what actually gave me the impetus for it was COVID, because before that I was traveling at least about once a year, and I was putting a lot of effort into planning the next trip. I was always looking forward. And then COVID happened and I was stuck here and I had to look back, and I really enjoyed looking through the travel journals, and I finally had the time to put them into a book. And it's also been really helpful for me. I was going through a difficult personal circumstance in 2020 as well, and preparing all aboard my first book really helped me with that. And this year, it's really helped with dealing with Omicron and other COVID things that have happened. We can't necessarily have as many social interactions as we normally would, so I've been sitting at home working on this and remembering some lovely social interactions from the past.
So this question is from Instagram.
Cool.
It looks like it's from Soul's Travel.
Hi, Soul's Travel. Oh, wait, the microphone isn't for Instagram. I didn't need to, but anyway, Facebook can hear anyway. Hi, yeah. Thanks for joining.
They're asking, are you still journaling now in Australia?
Sadly not. I did actually try, because I'm just at home now. I'm just living at home. I have journaled when I have travelled in Australia before, and I've always found it to be less interesting. Because I'm from here, things are normal to me. So, I've read Bill Bryson's Australia, for example. That's quite entertaining because he's someone from somewhere else, and he's looking at Australia and he sees things differently than I do. Because I'm from here, my writing ends up not being nearly as interesting if I'm traveling in Australia, because I'm not providing an outsider's input and seeing it and going, oh, that's really strange that they're picking grass, So, and now in my normal life where I'm just living at home now, I did actually try to start a journal here about 3 years ago. I thought it would be cool just to help remember my life and fun things that happened. And I wrote a couple of really nice entries about folk festivals that I went to. And then, unfortunately, I didn't acquire the habit of just writing about normal everyday life. It would be nice to. I'd like to. I wish I had more time, really. Mm. I probably wouldn't be able to publish books because the problem with me is I just have verbal diarrhea and I just end up writing so much. So I would need a lot of time to do a normal daily journal. But I did do a couple of fun things about folk festivals I went to, and they got published in my local Folk Federation newsletter. So that was my first travel publication in that case.
Okay, so, let me have a look. Okay, so there's 2 more questions and then just lots of nice comments. So I think we'll do the 2 questions and then I'm going to read some of the nice comments for you because you deserve them.
Oh, thanks.
So this question is from Felicity and she asks, are you going to write about Kanazawa? Probably just a shorter story.
Well, Kanazawa is in this book. So Felicity is a friend of mine who we became friends when we were studying in Kanazawa in that earlier time period when we were university students. And because I was only 18 then when I was writing this prolific journal that my cousins Sandra and Ken gave me the notebook for, because I was only 18, a lot of the writing was not so good, not publishable. But what I did was I picked the best bits. And there are actually several Kanazawa stories in here, which I've distinguished in the text, which is which. So they are in there as well. Only the good bits. But it was so much fun, yeah.
Okay, so the last question is nice comment, also question. So now that tourism restrictions are getting better, when are you coming back to Japan? And that was a question from Evan.
Hey, Evan, hello. Oh my gosh. Tourism restrictions are getting better. Japan has actually kept them longer than other places. There's I understand, significant foreigner movement restriction there at the moment, but I do understand it's being lifted. Sadly, I can't answer your question though. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I would love to, and I would love for you to come and visit me too.
Okay, so that's all the questions, unless anyone else adds anything in the next minute. But we have Keely saying that she is personally grateful, so grateful that you shared your adventures, and I agree, Keely. It's wonderful.
Well, I hope you enjoy sharing them and that you can get lots of great travel experience just from reading at home. Then not that you should stop going places as well, but you know, in addition.
It looks like Felicity has a bit of an in-joke for us, which hopefully you'll be able to explain.
Is it about Lord Mida's original vending machine?
No, it says you were surprised about cheese curry. I assume this is when I asked what the most unexpected was thing, because Kathy also commented, individually wrapped anything. Individually wrapped anything,
yes. They haven't caught on with the saving plastic thing in Japan, so yes, there's lots of individually wrapped things. Yes, cheese curry was something that Felicity and my friend Crystal discovered in a pot noodle from our local convenience store in Japan, which was interesting. I don't think I ate it myself, unless Crystal gave me some, I can't remember. But also, of course, there was all the amazing Kit Kat and ice cream flavours, and I ended up with over 30 Kit Kat flavours in my collection when I got back from Iwaki. And there was there was a dark chocolate raspberry one that was really nice, but then there was also weird ones like apple and carrot. Green tea was very nice. Sports drink was okay. Cola was good. They put sherbet inside the wafers of the Kit Kat. Oh, and coffee Kit Kat was very nice. Yes, these are all surprising things as well. And there is one of the chapters of the book is called Soy Sauce Kit Kat and Wasabi Ice Cream. Neither of which were amazing, actually. But there were other good things that I tried. Beer ice cream and curry ice cream were nice. I think I'm going to have to cut the questions now. So there's another one that's come in. I'm going to have to cut the questions so we can move in. But good. I like good questions.
Yeah. Okay, so this is from Gawain, and I'm sorry if that is pronounced
Hi, Gawain.
wrong.
Yes, you did pronounce it right, Gawain. Yeah.
Okay. So just mentioned that the mic is a bit funny, but I think that that's because of the nature of what we're using. Anyway, where is the book being sold? But also, how did Japan change you personally?
Oh, wow. How did Japan change me personally? Travel changes you personally in a good way because it enables you to see that your way of doing things isn't the only way of doing things. And in Japan, I more than travelled, I lived there. And so you get to learn a lot more about the country, as I said, when you live there. And therefore you get a greater understanding of that your way of doing things isn't the only way of doing things. And there may be some ways that you think, oh no, I prefer my country's way of doing things. Like I'm very glad I don't have to use honorific speech, for example. But there are other things that you can just you can cherry pick, especially if you go to a few different countries, you can cherry pick and steal people's better ways of doing things. One that I took from Japan was they have these really cool reactive words. So for example, if you hurt yourself, the word for ouch is itai, which literally means it hurts. That's 3 syllables. That's a bit hard to say when you just go ouch. So it gets shortened to ite. And I still say that. I still say that. And it's really good because it means I swear less. Because they've actually done psychological studies on, apparently if you swear when you hurt yourself, apparently it makes you feel better. There's something to do with the psychological ejaculation of sound of a swear word that makes you feel better. And in Japan, they almost never swear. So if they hurt themselves, they just go, ite! And I still do that. And that's great. And that's a bit of a diversion from Gawain's signal, but that's just Gawain's question. But yeah, travel and in particular living somewhere, you learn, your eyes are really opened to the world and you end up being just understanding people better because you can see that people are different. Now, Gawain also asked, where is the book sold? This is a good question, and thank you for reminding me because I did have that listed to say. So, it's on 2 websites online for online purchase, which are Amazon and lulu.com. For the print copy, this one, I would recommend lulu.com for 2 reasons. 1, they have a slightly better print quality. 2, more importantly, they are a lot more environmentally friendly than Amazon. There is a link, there's a pinned post on the Facebook one, which I will put the link on the Instagram as well. I'll put a comment to my website, which has links to where they are. But if you go to either lulu.com or amazon.com and search Japan Unexpected or Carrie Riseley, you will find them there. And so then you can order your own online. Now there is also the ebook. The ebook is available on Amazon, and Amazon also has an ebook subscription service called Kindle Unlimited, and it is on that. There is also, if any of you or people you know work for bookshops or libraries or schools, there is a company called Ingram Spark which sells books at industry rates, at significantly discounted rates to bookshops and schools and libraries. I am actually still in the process of doing the publishing there because I haven't yet received the proof copy. This is my Lulu proof copy and behind us is my Amazon proof copy. I haven't yet received the Ingram Spark proof copy, which means I haven't yet hit go to publish that one, but it will be on Ingram Spark. And my previous book, All Aboard, already is and is on Amazon and Lulu as well. So if you wanted to, anyone who doesn't live locally to me, now I live in Hobart, Tasmania, I will also be putting it in a few bookshops here myself. But anyone who doesn't live down here, you can always speak to your local bookshop or library and ask them if they would like to get a copy because they can get it from Ingram Spark. Yes. Now I have to finish up. We better finish up because I've been talking for a very long time. I have a reading from my next book, which will be number 3. And it'll be about East Asia. And I've been working on this concurrently with Japan and Unexpected for part of the time. So it's getting close. So I'm hoping to release it before Christmas, fingers crossed. And it's about various travels that I've done in East Asia to South Korea, China, Tibet, Hong Kong, Macau, Vietnam, Cambodia, a little bit of Thailand, and Taiwan. So it's all my travel journals from when I went to all those places. And the book is going to be called Smiles and Spices. And so this section I'm going to read to you now is from the Vietnam section. How about I talk about things you see on Vietnamese roads for a bit? In particular, motorbikes and the things people carry on them. In Vietnam, motorbikes are way cheaper than cars, and cars are particularly expensive. Not many people can afford them. So when people want to carry stuff around, they have to put it on a motorbike. And there seem to be no legal restrictions on this. Generally, being a mainland Asian country, traffic is pretty wild and rules few. It is compulsory to wear a motorbike helmet, but most are ill-fitting with next to no padding. In addition, Vietnam is a hot and humid country, so of course no one is going to be wearing protective clothing. Jeans in this climate, forget it. Shoes also are pretty rare. Nobody worries about the safety implications of any of this. Even if your average Vietnamese person doesn't know what would happen to them if they skidded across a highway in shorts, what is commonly known, because it happens to so many people, is this. Exhaust pipes get bloody hot, and if you're not careful where you put your bare legs, you could get quite a burn. This is called a Hanoi tattoo. But it's not only your own motorbike that will do this to you. Hanoi's streets are mostly very narrow, especially in the congested Old Quarter. I was stuck in a glut of traffic there once as a pedestrian, and it was pretty hairy. Cars, motorbikes and pedestrians suddenly packed together like sardines, and nobody able to move for a few seconds. In that situation, if you are on a motorbike, you can't stop. You have to keep your acceleration up and keep moving fast enough to stay upright because you are surrounded by hot exhaust pipes, so you have to avoid putting your feet down at all costs. I can see many situations in which this would not be possible, hence the Hanoi tattoo. So that's a general safety laxity of Vietnam's motorbikes. Oh, and of course they weave wherever the hell they want to, and pedestrians have to walk straight through them. Now let me tell you about the things I have seen being carried on motorbikes. Desktop computers, small children and babies, big sacks of grain, usually 3 or 4 or 5, strapped to one motorbike, and they're at least 20 kilograms each. A simply enormous gas bottle the size of the motorbike itself. Smaller gas bottles, many times. Enormous blocks of ice in this climate, completely out in the open. I saw that just 5 minutes ago. You'll see something interesting at least twice a minute if you watch the traffic in Vietnam. Shelves carrying cacti and other plants. I saw that as I was writing that last sentence. Sheets of glass, usually held in place by a passenger. An enormous sideboard of some kind, held in place on both sides by both the passenger and the driver, who permanently had one arm up behind his head. A passenger without a helmet, holding a baby not more than 3 months old in one hand, and an uncovered bowl of some kind of porridge in the other. A branch laden with bananas. A large number of coconuts on the front of a motorbike between the driver's legs. It's always interesting to look between the driver's legs, especially on scooter model motorbikes, because there's often something there. Sometimes just the grocery shopping, but I've also seen suitcases, coconuts, an extra bag of grain, and small children who mostly appear to be unsecured in any way. You can get basic child seats to put between the driver's legs though, some of them have those. Water cooler bottles, once I saw 2 balancing on the passenger's feet and held in place by only the passenger's hands. I hope they were empty. Families of 4. Just now, driver with 4 boxes and a large toolkit between his legs and a bag hanging from the hook at the side of the bike, Passenger with another 4 boxes in front of her and holding a long bendy plastic wire in each hand, dangling out both sides of the bike. Right now, driver with 4 small boxes in front and 2 big boxes behind. Long bamboo poles, usually held onto by passenger. Rolls of carpet. Stacks of crates of glass bottles of soft drink or beer. Right now, a fridge in a box. Sets of furniture, tables, chairs, stools, etc. Right now, a wheelbarrow. Okay, you get it. There's a lot of varied stuff. I'll cut the list now, but not before I finish with its crowning glory, the 3 most popular postcard pictures in Vietnam. They're highly truthful postcards because I saw these a lot of times. 1. Chickens, alive or dead, in makeshift cages or just hanging by their feet, usually from sticks protruding from the sides as well as the back of the motorbike. Ducks, usually alive and tied up so they don't move, in bags hanging from the shoulders of the driver, their heads protruding. 3. The crowning glory of things you see on motorbikes in Vietnam. Pigs, alive or dead, either in a large cylindrical basket designed specifically for the purpose or strapped to poles. I also saw canaries in cages and live fish in canvas bags. The bags were twitching. So that's what you have to look forward to, among many varied other things, because there's 9 different countries in it, in my East Asia book, which is hopefully coming out at the end of the year. But in the meantime, Japan Unexpected is available. Please do follow me. There's links on my profile and I'll also in the comments for where the links to buy the book are. And thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited because when I did my first book launch last year, my first book was called All Aboard, A Journey on the Trans-Mongolian Railway and Through Eastern Europe. But because I'd only just started, I didn't have many followers yet. So there were only like 5 people watching and nobody commented. Nobody asked questions in the comments. So I'm so excited that you guys all asked so many questions. Thanks so much for coming along. And tell your friends, and I hope you're all well and that you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thanks very much to Sarah Jane for helping me because she's been totally amazing.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. Now the embarrassing 3 seconds where I end it.